how many industries out there have a person who walks with you all the way through a certain project or a certain thing you're trying to do? You contact them in the beginning and you say, this is what I want to do. And then they're literally with you the whole way. The topic of the conversation is, why do you need a real estate agent anyway? And part of that's because of reasons I won't mention. I've seen a lot of comments lately about, in particular, what a lot of people out in the public seem to think real estate agents do. Like, I know it's really easy to redact down almost any job to just a simple, like a chef. Oh, I'm going to redact it down to, oh, you just cut some stuff up and throw it in a pan. Like what's the big deal about that? And so there's always going to be certain, some people that do that kind of thing. But it struck me that there was a really big part of the population that doesn't seem to know what it is that real estate agents do. And maybe that's because we've historically been around for a while. At least it's since the beginning of the 1900s. Many people have grown up with the concept that a real estate agent is involved in the purchase of a house. So it's human nature that job role may be taken a little bit for granted because it's kind of always been there. And it might be a little bit shrouded in mystery because we haven't necessarily always come forward and said all the things that we do. So, what guys can chime in. I mean, this is
the question is, why is it important?
Like, I'm sitting here wondering if Robert's a portrait or if he's actually like sitting there.
He's part of the background.
It's just like anything. There's value. I mean, you can represent yourself in court, but I wouldn't highly recommend it. I mean, you're going to want an attorney to represent you that understands the ins and outs of the law. The same is true when it comes to a professional real estate agent.
Yeah, of course, a real estate agent's not an attorney, but there's a lot of nuances involved in the purchase of a house. It can be complicated, and there's just really no way, when you've sold hundreds of homes, Robert himself has sold over 300 homes at this point in his career. He's gonna know a little bit more than somebody who's maybe sold one or even 5 or 6. There's a lot that you learn when you've sold 300 houses.
It's not just the real estate agent, though. It's not just the real estate agent. It's the real estate agent and the partners that they have.
Very important.
It's the relationships that they have with the closing attorneys and the openers and the paralegals and the people that are doing the title searches for encumbrances. And what if something goes wrong? Who's on your side? And these relationships that are developed by a professional realtor have come invaluable.
Home inspectors, mortgage lenders, HVAC, painter.
From home inspectors to closing attorneys to mortgage lenders. I mean, there's just a plethora of individuals that are involved in a real estate transaction, that are valuable and are, priceless at sometimes.
Well, that kind of leads into, and I printed this out, but I kind of left it across the room. So make sure we keep the show on the road. I'll try to read this with my grainy glasses. A realtor is a licensed professional who helps clients buy, sell, and rent homes, apartments, and commercial properties. These individuals work closely with clients to understand their preferences and needs and assist them in navigating the complex real estate market. And various markets. We've been through multiple types of market. Their responsibilities include conducting property tours, negotiating prices and terms, preparing contracts and documents, and overseeing the sale of the property. Realtors must possess strong interpersonal skills, excellent communication abilities, attention to detail, and be comfortable working in a fast-paced environment. And that's an understatement. They should be knowledgeable about local real estate market as well as laws and regulations related to the industry. That's quite a bit of stuff. My favorite part, though, is the overseeing the sale of the property. Now, without even trying to over-trivialize our job, because it's not, but there's a lot in that statement. Oversee the sale of the property, which is a lot of what you were just talking about, connecting our clients with certain partners that over the course of selling all these homes and things, we've gotten to know, and we feel like they are the best recommendation we can make. Of course, we try to give at least 3, and then let people kind of vet out which one they feel comfortable hiring. But overseeing the sale is a big statement.
It's multiple steps. It's not
It's
just
multiple steps.
Yeah.
It's multiple things that can happen. I don't know. I think almost anybody in this industry would say that one of the things they probably like about it, and one of the things that stress us out the most, is that every day can be different, and every sale can be different. You can have one that's a little bit on the easier side, and you can have one that has something pop up that you've never heard happen in your entire 20 years of doing business. Like something has popped up and you're all trying to figure out how to keep everything in play. So I say that that's probably a bulk of what the real estate agent does. Looking online, there's, you have your buyer agent, you have your listing agent, and a lot of people seem to think that a buyer agent's main responsibility is to find you a home. And I saw a lot of comments that said things like, I had a buyer agent and they never found the home. I found my home. They didn't find the home. Well, that's because that's a very small part of what a real estate agent does. I mean, most of the websites that people are actually looking on to find that home is, whether they know it or not, supplied by agents in one way or in another. And it's been done to facilitate and make it easy for them to sit at 11 o'clock at night and search through the same inventory that we have at our fingertips. Because I would say nobody's going to be as diligent about looking and going through all the inventory as somebody who is actively looking to buy their dream home. They have a certain thing in mind, and what they start out looking for in that process and what they end up selecting can be 2 very different things. And so if I sit here and I try to, I don't know what's in the MLS right now, but if you told me 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for sale in Myrtle Beach, if I put that criteria in, it's probably in the thousands. Yes. So once we work with people, of course, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but once you start showing houses and you start getting that verbal feedback, then yeah, of course, then we're slinging houses at them because we have a much better understanding of what they're looking for. But our job, at least as a buyer agent, begins once they select that house. I mean, do you guys agree?
Yeah, and also there's an opportunity for an agent who's been in the business a while or is on a team to be able to find inventory that isn't listed for sale. You may have curious sellers at some point. That's like, well, if you find somebody that's looking for a particular thing, we may consider, selling it. So, I mean, you have those opportunities afforded to you with a list of clients that you've helped in the past. So, I mean, if somebody's looking for something in particular in a certain area, you may have serviced that area for another client, and they may be willing to sell, and then it's just another way to gather inventory that isn't on the MLS.
Right, and I'm not saying that agents don't help people find a house. At the end of the day, of course we do, because like you said, we have our finger on maybe inventory that, we know is coming or whatever. For whatever reason, we may know of certain things that may or may not be available that isn't in the MLS right that second. But
I fully agree with what you're saying.
The bulk of what's available is going to be online.
Yeah, and it's changed dramatically over the last decades. You would go from an MLS book all the way to Zillow and Realtor.com and Homes.com and every Tom, Dick, and Jane.com real estate agent that has websites.
So to piggyback, though, on what Robert was saying about finding properties off the MLS, but I think especially in our area, our market, knowing the value of the home. But also, I know that I talk to a lot of people that aren't familiar with the Myrtle Beach area at all. We deal with a lot of clients that are coming from north or south or, west. Mm-hmm. That whether they want to move because they want to be closer to the beach or if it's for a job, but they want to move and they want to know our area better.
Yeah, that's certainly something specific to our area. Obviously, if you're from out of town, having an agent assist you in locating areas, at least that you can search for houses that you want to see, that's definitely helpful. But Robert mentioned the MLS book, and the reason that we have made it from an MLS book that, we would have to, I wasn't around back then. I know I look old, but I was not around at the time when they had MLS books and actively working as an agent. But I can only imagine what that must have been like, because there was only one picture of the front of the house and a description, which is, I think, where some of these long-winded descriptions come from is, you step into the foyer and there's sunshine, bathes your face, and, all these things. I think that kind of comes from, I guess, the MLS book days. Maybe they had enough space for all that description. But, I honestly think that people don't realize how much agents themselves have agreed and cooperated to have this inventory online to make it easier, so that people have the access. People can send you a house and say, I like this one. This is what I'm looking for. And then that conversation starts, and it makes the whole process easier. And then, of course, like I said, for both agents, there's a redaction of what a listing agent does too. A lot of people think that your main job as a listing agent is to find the buyer for the sale of the house. Yeah, that's true. I would say that that's a big part of what a listing agent does through marketing and open houses and all the things that listing agents do to help get a house sold. But once again, they are also there to assist the seller and oversee the actual sale of the property, and to be a resource as needed from beginning to end. So a big, huge part of the job starts after the contract is written. Getting to, or actually I should say, when the offer is submitted, getting the offer accepted, helping your client get, compete in multiple offer situations and things like that.
Yeah, but having an understanding on how to write the offer.
Right. Yep.
How to best cater that offer to the client that you're representing. Mm-hmm. With the best terms and the best negotiation, and then what suits them best, whether it's an immediate close or if it's a delayed close, is it a contingency, on their property selling, or there's just so many. It's like the iceberg theory, right? The finding of the property is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
We always say once we get an offer written or an offer accepted, then the real work begins. Mm-hmm. Because you have to keep that thing. That this is a huge purchase for somebody.
Right.
Gigantic.
Well. And it going back to kind of, I think the title of this is "Who Needs an Agent Anyway?"
Everyone.
Everyone. Well, I would say, it's definitely a personal decision if you've been involved personally in the sale of property. But I can tell you that when I first got licensed, one of the big things that people told us we did was we helped keep emotions out of the transaction. And when I first got licensed, I appreciated that. I understood it intellectually, but I didn't understand it until we had a townhome and the farm to sell. And Robert and I labored in this townhome, and we painted, and we got it all ready to go. And it was finally ready to go on market. And I hired myself to list the property. And, I thought it was great. The listing, I got professional photos done. I thought the listing looked great. The listing goes live, even though my intelligence said it's okay that the phone's not ringing off the hook from people to see this property. It was quiet. And I tell you, I freaked out. I got emotional. I was like, what's going on? Why is nobody here? And I did exactly what I would never advise somebody to do. I lowered the price within like 48 hours because I got emotional and I freaked out. And had I had somebody, and I know agents who say, like, I would not sell a property without hiring an agent, because they understand this fundamental principle that when you're in the middle of it, it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming, and like
keep it at arm's length transaction with on the old bank terms where you can't buy a property if you work for BB&T or Wells Fargo, or you can't buy one of their foreclosures back in the day, because it needed to be an arm's length transaction. You need to remove yourself to some degree from that emotional state.
Yeah, and we see it all the time. People want to sell, people want to buy. The minute they get in that transaction, though, some people they see the other party as an opponent, like this, it's an opponent. It's not a deal. It's not a transaction. They think that every little thing, they say that text messaging is like the worst communication because it can be read so many different ways, right? So you get a request in from the buyer and immediately somebody, oh, I'm not doing that. And you have to kind of calm them down and say, that actually is a pretty reasonable request or whatever. And you talk it through with people and you help them understand that, what's going on. But we see it all the time. I would say one of the biggest jobs we have is to keep people calm and to reassure them, when things go sideways, we're there, even at sometimes, I know us, some people have different standards, but I think everyone right here has been on the phone with a client at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, trying to figure out what the best steps are to keep something in play because things pop up that were not anticipated or what have you. And it's kind of like hiring a home inspector. A lot of people question, should I hire a home inspector? Do I really want to spend that money? Well,
yes. The answer is yes.
Always.
Yeah, the answer is yes, but they do question it. And it's for the same reason, because they feel like if they spend that money and the person goes in and does the inspection and nothing's wrong, then the money's wasted. They wasted the money because there wasn't something there, but you don't know in advance. You don't know in advance, just like you don't know in advance if a real estate transaction is going to be smooth or if it's going to have, if you're literally going to the closing table still putting out fires.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been everything from beginning to end, and you're having to help.
I think back to the negotiations, I do think that the inspection being a big part, then there's more negotiations that have to be non-emotional. And that's, again, where we come in to try to keep it very neutral. And because someone might say, there is a doorknob missing, and that is the biggest deal, and I'm not buying the house. But the roof could be leaking. There's different things that come up in the home inspection report that we have to negotiate to get to the other end of you wanting to buy the house that you originally knew was your dream house to start with. There's so many emotions that fly everywhere.
Yeah, and I know sellers. I've not had a lot of sellers that doesn't make nervous. The whole inspection period, what's going to be asked for in a repair. I know as a listing agent, that's definitely one of the things that I get the most questions on during the transaction, and takes some navigation,
Training, right? So training, expertise, length of time in business, number of transactions, these all equate to somebody who's able to represent you to the utmost of their ability and to a higher level, frankly, because in South Carolina, we have the due diligence. So you're going to need to understand how long it's going to take for an inspector to get there, how long it's going to take for an inspection report to come back, how long it's going to take for us to review an inspection report. Do we need to have other people go out there? Do we need to extend that due diligence period? There's so many things that happen up front, and just based on the fact that you have that experience, you're able to navigate that to represent a buyer or represent a seller, fully and with their best interests, because that's your job.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And with their what they say they want and need, which is usually what they tell you during the first consultation. So, a good agent has that conversation up front, and they keep that in their mind the entire time. And when things start to derail, because once again, maybe emotions come into it or whatever, we help our clients remember what the end goal is and why they want to get there. Sometimes too, we help them be strong enough to not do certain things that are not in their best interest. That's another thing that can kind of come up in negotiations or during the process of getting looking at the offers, whatever. Because they have an end goal in mind, they can pressure themselves to do things that may not be in their best interest. And we have to be there and say, based on our expert knowledge of the market, based on all the things that we've done in our experience, I don't think you need to do this way. And I think if you do this way, it's going to go this way, and you're not going to be happy. So I suggest we go this way. That's all part of advising.
Yeah, and and especially on this team, on the Kingsley team, and Jordan's not, she's in a different meeting, but it could result in leaving the deal if if it's appropriate, if you're in due diligence, or if there's something like that, it could literally result. And I can speak for the entire team. That's okay. If we have to walk away from a deal and find another house and find another deal, that's fine.
Yes.
Right.
Because
same goes for the seller.
It's exactly right. It's whomever we represent.
Yeah.
Going back to the client is the 100%. We have their best interest.
100%.
So who needs an agent? We say everybody. I say anybody that understands that it can get an emotional.
I'll tell you what.
Situation that.
Since all this stuff has kind of gone down, and it's not really gone down. It hasn't been, signed off on. But I've seen a lot of posts from real estate agents that could use an agent to talk to, because they're saying some silly stuff.
Oh, and that's just to piggyback.
I mean, they're not using their brains. They're not using logic. And a lot of these cases that they're posting stuff on social media, and you're like, maybe you should talk to a professional real estate agent.
Everything that you see online, you can't. I mean, that I tell my 14-year-old son that everything that you read online is not true. Period.
It's getting to where it's pretty much everything.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And go to your trusted professional real estate agent with questions.
Yeah.
It's a relationship. It's a friendship.
Yes.
It is a lifelong relationship that we tell clients when we close, or we are here. We're not gone. If there's a package being delivered and you're out of town and you need our help, or you get locked out or something like that happens, just call us. We are here to help you no matter what, for as long as we're alive.
How many industries out there have a person who walks with you all the way through a certain project or a certain thing you're trying to do? You contact them in the beginning and you say, this is what I want to do. And then they're literally with you the whole way, like the whole way. Anytime you can call them at night, you got questions. They're your personal one-on-one person agent, whatever, to help you get from point A to point B. I mean, I can't think of too many things. We're literally one of the last places left that has such high level of customer service. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about how many things, there's 9 to 5, you call them, you get passed around, you don't have anybody to help you. I mean, we're like the last industry where somebody has a person, they have their people that they can call and ask questions and help.
It's customer service is all but dead.
And we're like one of the last bastions, I think, of,
I'm
really
laughing.
Personalized customer service.
In my head, I just keep hearing, hit 1, speak to representative. Like, you won't get that when you call my phone number. You will get, hello, this is Devin. Not press 1, press 3, press 10, enter this, and then.
Oh, sure. And I'm
so frustrating.
There's factors out there that would love for the real estate market to be like that too.
All of our clients.
Press 1,
Just answer the phone. Answer the questions, answer the phone.
Right.
And apply the golden rule, right? That's one, treat others how you wish to be treated.
Yes.
Which is one of the things that we go by. Just be a decent human, tell the truth, and treat others how you want to be treated. That's it. It doesn't matter. It's not in your best interest. It's in whomever you represent's best interest is the goal every time.
Yeah. I would say, I can't speak for other markets. I feel like in Myrtle Beach, we're extremely lucky to have some really fantastic agents. I mean,
I was thinking that a minute ago.
Solid individuals.
Totally agree.
They make it, it's very competitive in that way. They make it hard because they're so awesome, but we have a lot of them, and most of them feel exactly that way. Like that's why they're in this. It's a stressful job. You work a lot of hours, but at the end of the day, they have a lot of passion for helping people and using their expertise to assist people in something that, like I've already stated, can get very emotional, can get very scary. And they have a passion for being there when that person needs them and helping them getting to the closing table. And we are really lucky in this area to have a whole lot of agents who feel that way. So in wrapping up, who needs an agent, right? Somebody who understands that it's a complicated process. It can be extremely complicated. It can be smooth too, but it's a complicated process with many moving parts, with many people out of your control who are supposed to do their jobs, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what those jobs are, then you don't necessarily know if they're doing them or not. There's a lot of things going on. So it's anybody that can appreciate that they may need somebody to help keep them on course through the process, that can answer their questions, that can advise them based on the experience from having sold hundreds of homes in many situations. And if that person hasn't sold hundreds of homes, they probably work very closely with people that do. So they got people that can back them up and helping back you up. And we've had the experience in the relationships with the other vendors, and we facilitate. You want somebody to facilitate. If you're a seller, do you really want to be there day, noon, and night to help people come in and look at your house? If you're a buyer, do you really want to have to arrange that with the person you're going to be negotiating with? So anybody that can appreciate those aspects and feels like that's something that they want in one of the most important purchases of their lives, that's the person that would need a real estate agent. Right?
Yeah, if you need a real estate agent, call us.
Yeah, if you call us. A lot of great ones in Myrtle Beach, but call us.
First call you make.
All right. Well, I thought that went well. Thank you guys for joining us. We didn't have a special guest today, but we are the special guest. So great conversation.
Very nice. Very nice.
Very nice. Very nice.